It was Jack's 12th birthday, and the house was alive with excitement. His younger sister was bouncing around the living room, and his parents were busy preparing for the celebration. Jack opened his eyes to the sound of cheerful voices calling, "Happy birthday!" He jumped out of bed, his heart racing with excitement. Downstairs, the dining table was filled with balloons, a large cake, and wrapped gifts. His cousin Sarah, who was 10, arrived with her parents. Sarah hugged Jack tightly and said, "I hope you like my gift." Jack's dad clapped him on the shoulder. "Enjoy your day, son. You're growing up so fast." Jack couldn't stop smiling as he imagined what surprises the day would bring. After breakfast, everyone gathered in the living room for the gift opening. Jack's sister handed him a small box, and Sarah gave him a card she had made herself. But it was the big box from his parents that caught Jack's attention. "You'll love this," his mom said, smiling. Jack tore through the wrapping paper to reveal a brand-new smartphone. His eyes widened in surprise. "For me?" he asked, barely able to contain his excitement. "Yes," his dad said, "but there are some rules you need to follow." Jack nodded eagerly, thrilled to have his first phone. The moment Jack unwrapped the phone, it became the star of the day. Sarah leaned closer to get a better look. "Can we try it out after the cake?" she asked. Jack grinned and nodded. His dad, however, had a serious look on his face. "Before you start, let's talk about a few rules," he said, sitting Jack down. "This phone is not just a toy. You'll use it to stay in touch and for schoolwork. No downloads without our permission, and we'll check it sometimes. Understood?" Jack nodded quickly, eager to start exploring. "I promise to follow the rules," he said. The family then gathered around the cake, laughing and taking pictures. Sarah joked about how Jack was finally catching up with her in age, and Jack shot back, "Well, at least I get a phone before you do." As the day went on, Jack began experimenting with the phone. He set up his profile, downloaded a few games with his parents' approval, and took selfies with Sarah and his sister. By evening, his mom reminded him again to use the phone responsibly. "Remember, Jack, the internet can be both useful and dangerous. Be careful about what you explore." Jack promised again, confident he could handle the responsibility. The rest of the day was filled with laughter and fun as friends and family joined the celebration. Jack's grandparents arrived with a box of his favorite cookies, and his uncle brought along a board game for everyone to play. Sarah and Jack stayed close, taking turns exploring the phone. "This is so cool," Sarah said as they tested the camera features and played a racing game Jack's dad had approved. While the adults chatted and enjoyed snacks, Jack and Sarah created silly videos and shared them with the family. "You two are having way too much fun," Jack's mom joked, shaking her head. Despite the joy of the day, Jack's parents kept a watchful eye. They knew the phone was a big step for Jack, and they wanted to ensure he used it wisely. "Remember, Jack," his dad said during dinner, "this phone is a privilege. Use it wisely, and don't let it distract you from your studies or family time." Jack nodded, feeling a sense of pride that his parents trusted him. As the day wound down, Sarah hugged Jack and said, "I hope we can play more games on your phone tomorrow." Jack smiled, already looking forward to it. As the party ended, Jack felt a mix of joy and exhaustion. He sat on the couch, scrolling through the photos and videos they had taken. His sister giggled as she looked over his shoulder, while Sarah sat nearby, doodling on a notepad. Jack's mom came over and placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's been a big day for you, hasn't it?" she asked. Jack nodded, still captivated by the screen. "Remember to keep the phone in the living room when you're done," she added. Jack agreed, though he felt a small pang of disappointment. He had hoped to keep the phone with him all the time. Later that night, as Jack lay in bed, he thought about all the things he could do with his phone. His parents had only allowed a few apps, but he knew there was so much more out there. His curiosity was piqued, and he couldn't wait to explore. Little did he know, this excitement would soon lead him into uncharted and dangerous territory. The next morning, Jack woke up early, eager to use his phone again. He quickly finished his breakfast and asked his mom if he could play a game. She agreed, reminding him of the rules. Jack spent the morning exploring new features. He discovered the internet browser but was soon interrupted by Sarah. "What are you doing?" she asked, peeking over his shoulder. "Just exploring," Jack replied casually. Sarah looked curious. "Have you found anything interesting yet?" "Not yet," Jack said, though his mind was already racing with possibilities. As the day went on, Jack started feeling more confident about using the phone. He began wondering about the things his friends had talked about, hidden tricks and cool websites. He decided he'd find out more when no one was watching. For now, though, he kept things simple, playing games and taking pictures with Sarah. The phone had become his new favorite thing, and he couldn't wait to see what else it could do. As weeks passed, Jack became more comfortable with his new phone. He followed the rules his parents had set, but his curiosity about the internet kept growing. At school, his friends often talked about games, videos, and cool stuff they found online. Jack listened carefully, wondering what he was missing. One day, during recess, a classmate showed Jack a website full of games and videos. "You should check it out," the friend said. "There's way more fun stuff there than your parents will ever allow." Jack felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. That evening, Jack decided to explore his phone further. While browsing, he discovered the internet browser. He remembered his friend's suggestion and typed in the website's name. However, a message popped up saying, "Access denied." His parents had installed a filter to block certain sites. Jack felt frustrated but determined. There must be a way to turn this off, he thought. He searched for ways to bypass restrictions and found a tutorial video. Following the steps carefully, Jack managed to disable the parental controls. Now, the internet was wide open. Jack felt a rush of excitement and power, knowing he could explore anything he wanted. However, he had no idea that this freedom would soon lead to choices he wasn't ready to make. With the restrictions gone, Jack eagerly explored the internet. He started with websites his friends had mentioned, playing games and watching funny videos. It felt like he had entered a whole new world where he could do anything without anyone watching. One evening, while playing an online game, a pop-up ad appeared. It promised exclusive content and showed flashy images. Jack hesitated but clicked out of curiosity. The link led him to a new website filled with videos and pictures he hadn't seen before. At first, Jack didn't understand what he was looking at. The content seemed different from the usual games and cartoons he enjoyed, but his curiosity pushed him to keep exploring. He clicked on a video and watched it, feeling both fascinated and confused. Jack decided to save some of the videos in a hidden folder on his phone, naming it Homework to keep it secret. He told himself it wasn't a big deal and that no one would find out. From that day on, Jack spent more time on his phone, often staying up late to explore. He became more secretive, hiding his activities from his parents and Sarah. What started as curiosity was quickly turning into a habit he couldn't control. Jack's late-night browsing sessions became a regular thing. He would wait until everyone was asleep, then unlock his phone and dive into the internet. The pop-up ads led him to more websites, each offering new and exciting content. One night, Jack stumbled across a site with adult videos. At first, he felt uncomfortable, but his curiosity got the better of him. He clicked on a video and watched it, his heart racing. The images and sounds stayed with him even after he turned off his phone. Jack began to feel uneasy about what he was doing. He knew his parents wouldn't approve, but he convinced himself it was harmless. "It's just videos," he thought. "I'm not hurting anyone." He started spending more time alone, glued to his screen. His parents noticed the change, but assumed he was just enjoying his new phone. They reminded him to balance his time between studies and play, but Jack barely listened. The secret weighed on Jack, but he didn't know how to stop. The more he watched, the more he wanted to see. Without realizing it, Jack was stepping deeper into a world that was far too mature for him to handle. One afternoon, Jack decided to download one of the videos he had been watching. He wanted to keep it on his phone so he could watch it anytime without needing the internet. He found a way to save the video into his hidden Homework folder. Jack felt a mix of excitement and anxiety, knowing he was hiding something from his parents. He promised himself it would be his last time, but deep down, he wasn't sure he could stop. Over the next few days, Jack continued downloading more videos. He became skilled at hiding his activities, making sure no one could find out. He even started locking his phone with a password, something he had never done before. Jack's parents noticed his behavior becoming more secretive. "Why do you need a password?" his mom asked one evening. "It's just for privacy," Jack replied quickly. His mom didn't press further, trusting him to be responsible. Jack felt guilty lying to his parents, but his curiosity always won. The hidden videos became a part of his daily routine, and he started feeling distant from his family. What had started as innocent curiosity was now controlling his thoughts and actions. Jack's secret life on the internet began affecting everything he did. He no longer enjoyed playing games or spending time with Sarah and his sister. Instead, he couldn't wait for moments when he could sneak off with his phone. At school, Jack's grades started slipping. His teachers noticed he wasn't paying attention in class, and his friends complained that he was always distracted. Jack didn't care. All he could think about was getting back to his phone. One evening, Sarah asked to borrow Jack's phone to play a game. Jack hesitated, but handed it over reluctantly. As Sarah played, she accidentally opened the hidden homework folder. A video started playing, and Sarah froze, unsure of what she was seeing. "What is this?" Sarah asked, turning to Jack. Jack panicked and quickly grabbed the phone. "It's nothing," he said, trying to act calm. But Sarah wasn't convinced. She knew Jack was hiding something. Jack's obsession was no longer just his secret. Sarah had seen a glimpse of it, and Jack didn't know how to explain. His actions were starting to catch up with him, and things were about to take a turn he couldn't control. After seeing the strange video on Jack's phone, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about it. She didn't fully understand what she had seen, but it made her feel uneasy. The next day, she confronted Jack. "What was that video, Jack? It didn't look like a game or anything normal," Sarah asked. Jack tried to brush it off. "It's just a silly video. Don't worry about it," he said, avoiding eye contact. But Sarah wasn't convinced. "Why are you hiding it? If it's not a big deal, why can't I watch it?" she pressed. Jack hesitated, then said, "Fine. But you can't tell anyone, okay?" He showed Sarah the folder and played a different video. Sarah watched, her face full of confusion. "Why do you have these?" she asked quietly. "They're just videos I found online." "Everyone watches them," Jack replied, trying to sound confident. Sarah wasn't sure if that was true, but she didn't want to seem childish. She nodded and didn't say anything else. That night, Sarah felt uncomfortable. She wanted to tell her parents, but worried Jack would get in trouble. She decided to stay quiet, hoping Jack would stop watching the videos on his own. Days passed, and Sarah noticed Jack spending more time on his phone. She tried to distract him by suggesting they play games or go outside, but Jack always seemed more interested in his hidden videos. One afternoon, Sarah asked, "Why do you keep watching those? Don't they make you feel weird?" Jack shrugged. "Not really. They're just videos. You'll get used to them." Sarah wasn't sure she wanted to get used to them, but Jack convinced her to watch more. "It's not bad," he said. "It's just something fun. No one has to know." Reluctantly, Sarah agreed. She didn't want Jack to think she was boring or scared. They started watching the videos together whenever they were alone. At first, Sarah felt uncomfortable, but Jack kept telling her it was normal. "Everyone does this. It's not a big deal," he said. Sarah wasn't sure if that was true, but she didn't want to argue. Over time, Sarah began to feel guilty. She knew their parents wouldn't approve, and part of her felt like they were doing something wrong. But she didn't know how to stop without upsetting Jack. One day, Jack suggested they try copying what they saw in the videos. Sarah froze. "What? No way," she said firmly. "Come on," Jack said. "It's just for fun. No one will know." Sarah shook her head. "It's wrong. We shouldn't." Jack tried to convince her. "It's not a big deal. We're just experimenting. Don't you trust me?" Sarah felt torn. She didn't want to disappoint Jack, but her instincts told her this wasn't right. After a long pause, she said, "Okay, but just this once." They tried to mimic what they saw, but it felt awkward and uncomfortable. Sarah immediately regretted agreeing. She told Jack, "I don't want to do this again." Jack looked frustrated, but didn't push further. "Fine," he said, but he didn't seem happy. That night, Sarah felt a heavy weight on her chest. She knew what they were doing wasn't okay, but she didn't know how to fix it. Jack, meanwhile, acted as if nothing had happened, but deep down, he knew things were getting out of hand. Despite her discomfort, Sarah found it hard to avoid Jack. He kept asking her to watch the videos, or spend time with him in private. She didn't want to make him angry, so she agreed. But she started feeling more distant from him. Jack, on the other hand, seemed to grow bolder. He spent more time searching for new videos and finding ways to hide them. He started locking his room and lying to his parents about what he was doing. Sarah tried to convince Jack to stop. "This isn't good for us, Jack. What if someone finds out?" she asked. "No one will," Jack said confidently. "You worry too much." But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading toward trouble. She began avoiding Jack whenever she could, but he always found a way to pull her back into his world. Sarah's guilt grew stronger every day. She wanted to talk to someone, but she was too scared of the consequences. Jack's obsession was taking over, and Sarah felt trapped in a situation she didn't know how to escape. One day, Sarah decided she had had enough. "Jack, I don't want to do this anymore," she said firmly. "Why not?" Jack asked, sounding annoyed. "Because it's wrong. I don't feel good about it, and I don't think you do either," Sarah replied. Jack tried to argue. "It's not a big deal, Sarah. You're overreacting." "No, I'm not," Sarah said. "This isn't normal, and I'm not going to keep hiding it." Jack fell silent. He didn't want to lose Sarah's company, but he could see she was serious. "Fine," he said reluctantly, "but don't tell anyone." "I won't, but you need to stop too," Sarah said. Jack nodded, but Sarah wasn't sure if he meant it. She felt a sense of relief, but also worry. What if Jack didn't stop? What if their parents found out? That night, Sarah prayed for courage. She knew she couldn't keep this secret forever, but she needed time to figure out what to do. Jack, meanwhile, felt more alone than ever, unsure of how to handle his growing obsession. Sarah kept her distance from Jack after their last conversation. She focused on her schoolwork and spent more time with her parents, trying to avoid being alone with him. But she couldn't shake the worry that Jack hadn't stopped watching the videos. Jack, meanwhile, continued his habits in secret. He missed having Sarah around, but didn't want to admit that he felt lonely. He spent hours locked in his room, convinced no one would find out. One evening, Sarah overheard her parents talking about Jack. "Have you noticed how distracted he's been lately?" her mom asked. "Yes," her dad replied. "He's always on that phone. I think we should check what he's doing." Sarah's heart raced. She didn't want to betray Jack, but she also felt her parents had a right to know. She decided to stay quiet for now, hoping Jack would stop on his own. That night, Jack's mom knocked on his door. "What are you doing in there, Jack? You've been in your room all evening." "Just studying," Jack lied. His mom frowned but didn't push further. Jack knew he was walking a dangerous line. He promised himself he'd stop soon, but the pull of the videos was stronger than his guilt. Sarah couldn't keep the secret to herself any longer. The weight of knowing what Jack was doing, and what they had done together, was too much to bear. She started avoiding her parents, afraid they might see the guilt in her eyes. One afternoon, Sarah tried to talk to Jack again. "You really need to stop this, Jack," she said. "If Mom and Dad find out, we'll both be in so much trouble." Jack shrugged. "I've got it under control. They won't find out." "But what if they do?" Sarah asked. "Don't you feel bad about lying to them?" Jack looked away. "A little," he admitted, "but it's not like I'm hurting anyone." Sarah shook her head. "You're hurting yourself, Jack, and you're making me feel terrible too." Jack stayed silent, unsure of how to respond. He didn't want to admit it, but he was starting to feel the weight of his actions. That night, Sarah decided she couldn't keep quiet any longer. She prayed for the courage to do the right thing, even if it meant Jack would be upset with her. Jack's mom noticed that something was off. Both Jack and Sarah seemed distant, and Jack's behavior had become more secretive. She decided to take action. One evening, after Jack had gone to bed, his mom picked up his phone from the living room table. She tried to unlock it, but Jack had added a password. This raised even more suspicion. The next morning, she told Jack's dad about her concerns. "We need to talk to him," she said.